Hi, guys. Welcome to the recap show. Today's movie recap will cover a 2005 horror thriller movie named Next Door. Sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy. The movie opens by showing a man, John, standing alone in his apartment. He hears the doorbell and goes to investigate. Upon opening, he meets his ex girlfriend, Ingrid. John thinks she is there to say hi, but she informs him that she is there to pick up her things. John immediately wears a sad face. John gets upset when Ingrid tells him that she told her new boyfriend, Ake, about the relationship. Ingrid says Ake has the right to know everything that happened when she was with John. Things get more upsetting for John when he realizes that Ake is waiting downstairs in case he hurts Ingrid. John says he has never hurt Ingrid and doesn't have the intention to do so. Before he could say more, Ingrid gets her things and leaves. Up next, John and a woman, Anne, take the elevator together. The duo comes out on the same level. As John opens the door to his apartment, Anne stops and asks John for a favor. She says there is something heavy that needs moving in her apartment, but she can't do it alone. John agrees to help, but says he will come over once he settles down. However, Anne insists that John follow her now, and he succumbs. John enters Anne's apartment, and the whole place looks weird. Anne tells John that she needs her big cabinet moved behind the door. John tries to move the cabinet, but it's too much for him. As he does so, Anne's sister, Kim, shows up and greets John. Anne reminds John that the cabinet has to go behind the door, but John says if it goes behind it, how will he leave? Anne pretends to have made a mistake and tells John to have a drink instead. He tries to refuse, but to no avail. Anne pours John a cup of drink and asks him if he knows the reason they want the cabinet behind the door. He says he doesn't know. Anne tells him a man is after her and her sister because they are beautiful. As they talk, John sees a scar on Anne's waist. He tells the duo that he needs to leave now. Anne cuts him short and says John has no business at home since Ingrid already left him. John is surprised to hear this. He asks them how they know about his private life, and Anne says they hear everything through the wall. To avoid further questions, John leaves. John gets to his apartment and takes a look at every corner to make sure there is no secret mic in his home. As he does so, he has a flashback about his time with Ingrid. Moments later, John hears the doorbell. He opens the door and finds Anne. Anne says she is going out and needs someone to stay with Kim. John says he is less concerned about that and closes the door on her. However, John opens the door when he hears Kim had a bad past. Anne says the former resident of John's apartment forcefully made out with Kim. Anne says Kim hasn't been able to leave the apartment since then. John decides to stay with Kim. Anne tells him to put the cabinet behind the door because Kim will get scared if she doesn't feel safe. After Anne's departure, John locks the door and pulls the cabinet behind it. Moments later, John finds Kim going through some music tapes. Kim is surprised to see John. John tells her that Anne charged him to stay with her. Kim reveals that Anne is not her sister. She also says Anne lied about her being assaulted. John is surprised as to why Anne would lie. Just then, Kim starts going close to John. She tries to get his attention, and John gets upset. He tries to leave, but Kim stops him by removing the key to the door. John starts looking for Kim. He soon finds himself in a scattered room. The landline rings and John picks up. Kim talks to him about his relationship with Ingrid. She says he must have been very hurt because Ingrid cheated on him. Kim wishes she had someone like John. She tells John to check the chair across the room. She says John will find a key that will lead to another room. John finds the key and opens the door to another section of the house. John finds Kim seated in a room. Kim tells John that Anne specifically built the room for her. She asks John some questions, but he refuses to answer. Kim tells John to close his eyes and picture the story she's about to tell him. She starts telling John a very seductive story to turn him on. After the story, Kim asks John to sit with her. She tempts John, with which he initially refuses. Kim hits him and he does the same too. This soon turns into a romantic affair and the duo makes out. Unknown to John, Anne is watching them as they make out aggressively. After they are done, John looks at himself in the mirror and realizes that his face is extremely damaged. John takes off his shirt and discovers that his body is covered in ichor. He enters the shower and cleans up. The next day, John arrives at work. His coworker asks him what happened to his face. John lies by telling his coworker that he bumped into a cabinet. In order to stay long in the office, John receives extra paperwork to sort out. Soon afterward, he suffers a migraine and heads home. He enters his apartment and locks the door. Just then, John hears the sound of struggle outside. He opens the door and checks, but finds no one. John enters the bathroom and sees the towel he used in cleaning up his body. He takes the towel and dumps it into the trash. John calls the apartment management and asks them about Ann and Kim, but they inform him that his apartment is the last listed apartment on his floor. He gets worried and decides to call Ingrid. When Ingrid doesn't pick up, John leaves a voicemail for her. He asks if they can go out together and apologizes for how he behaved the last time she came to visit. A flashback scene then shows the conversation between John and Ingrid when she came last. It is revealed that John is always turned on anytime Ingrid is in pain. He also gets in the mood if Ingrid talks about how she has made out with several men. This connects to the story Kim told John the day before. Now in the present day, John decides to visit Ann and Kim. He knocks on their door. Ann opens the door and asks him what he wants to talk about. John asks Ann why he has never heard any noise from their apartment. Ann tells John that she and Kim are very quiet. Just then, Ann tells John that Kim wants to see him. As John walks through the hallway, Ann locks the door behind him. He soon finds Kim in one of the rooms. Kim asks John why John hit her yesterday. John says Kim was the one that started it. Kim replies to him and says John could have held her hand since he is the stronger one. John sees reason in what Kim said and agrees that he could have just stopped her instead of retaliating. Kim moves closer to John as if she wants to make out with him, but stylishly walks off. John starts looking for Kim, but he finds himself in front of a room. He sees Ann talking to Ake. After the duo is done talking, Ake stands up and hits Ann. Ake walks out of the room and challenges John. John looks scared because of what he just witnessed. John says all he wants is to leave the house. Ake gives John a key, but it doesn't fit. He gives him another one, and this time it works. John walks off hurriedly, but soon discovers that there is another door. Just then, Ake comes from behind and starts roughing up John. Ake says John loved hurting Ingrid just so he could get turned on. Ann comes over and kisses John. John starts getting some weird images in his head. Ann takes John to a room and tells him to enter. John takes a look at his surroundings and sees that everything there belongs to him. He finally opens the door and enters. Inside the room, John finds Kim's dead body on the bed. Kim has died due to the injuries she sustained during their romantic episode together. John walks away from the room and makes his way to his apartment. He locks himself in but soon starts hearing noise from the outside. He decides to investigate what is going on. He opens his door and realizes that there is no other apartment besides his own on the floor. The next day, John's coworker, Peter, arrives and sees a lot of damage has been done to John's apartment. He knocks on the door and John opens up. John asks him if he can see the neighbor's door, but Peter says no. John touches Peter and realizes that he is real. John immediately locks his door, pushes some cabinets behind, and leaves. He arms himself with a hammer and realizes that he has already terminated Ake. A flashback goes back to the day Ingrid came to pick up her things. John stops her on her way out. Ingrid threatens to call Ake and John dares her. As the duo struggles with each other, John overpowers her and strangles her to death. It is apparent that he terminated Ake when he came to ask about Ingrid. Now in the present day, Peter and the authorities are looking for a way to enter John's apartment. Inside John's apartment, he is seen having a conversation with an unknown person. The movie comes to an end as John lays beside Ingrid's dead body and confesses his love to her. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to receive future recaps.